Nation, what's up? Good evening. Happy Thursday. It's just going to be me tonight, which is fine. It's fine. We don't have an official show topic to break down or a guest. So I'm just sitting here and we're going to do a whiskey blind. We're going to talk about some whiskey and we're going to bottle pop Elijah Craig 18. This has been a week of Heaven Hill for me. Why? Because I love Heaven Hill. It does seem a little like, I think, suspect. Like, dude, that's a lot of Heaven Hill stuff. Are you paid by Heaven Hill? No, I wasn't. Good guy, William Wiley, who's in the chat, had sent me a couple bottles of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof that I hadn't been able to try. And I love Elijah Craig, love Heaven Hill. So I was just jacked to try those out and wanted to do a few videos. One being the what bourbon should I buy, Heaven Hill episode, and then do the Elijah Craig comparisons given all the controversy. Probably a good way to put it that's out there about those. And then tonight I was like, you know what? I'm on such an Elijah Craig kick right now. We might as well do the Elijah Craig 18 pop. I've talked about popping that one for a while now. Haven't done it. Here we go. I've never opened a bottle of Elijah Craig 18. I've had probably 2 tastes before. So I'm really eager to see how this particular single barrel is. So we're going to get into that in just a little bit. First, how is everybody? I'm alone, so I'll monitor the chat as best I can here. Lots of folks in the chat already. 22, good to see you all. Wendy Miller, Scott Tyson, Wendell Wilson, 21090, Matt W. Good to see everybody. What's everybody sipping on? Yeah, I want to know the answer to that question as well. And then I'll tell you. You guys know how the bit goes. I say, what did I buy this week? And also, what am I sipping on? But first, what are you sipping on? Whiskey Nose in the chat. Hey, what's up? Scott Tyson says he is sipping E.H. Taylor small batch and barrel seagrass for the wife. So a friend of mine who lives probably 30 minutes north, we're going to golf next week, Matty Pletz, he said he had tried seagrass, said it was really interesting. I've not had it yet, but he and I will probably swap some samples when we golf next week. So hopefully I'll get to try it soon. Matt W. Parker's Heritage, heavy hitter dog. Which edition of the Parkers are you sipping on? That heavy char? That's a good one. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C920, Henry McKenna. All my Heaven Hill peeps in the house. It's killer. Redwood Empire Emerald Giant for Wendell and a cigar in the garage. Commenter McComment Face, which again, one of my favorite handles so far. Blue Note Juke Joint Uncut. Nashville distributor pick. I've not had any Blue Note stuff. Heard good things. Seems like people are enjoying what Blue Note is putting out. So we'll get to that. Matt says he is sipping the heavy char. Sweet, man. 21090 Foregate River Kelvin Rye Batch 13. I've not had any Foregate yet. We'll get around to that. Looked like my friends Scott and Jason over at Mash and Drum and My Bourbon Journey, they did a barrel pick with Foregate, which is awesome that they were able to do that. They've had some pretty good picks recently, it looks like. So I'm a little bit envious, but it's not a competition. Looks like they're crushing it. Randy's got Maker's Cask Strength, always a great pick. I am getting into the evening gently, because it's just me here. So I had to ease into this, particularly in that we're going to hit a sample tasting, a blind here from Andrew Beck, friend of the pod, friend of the show. So he sent 7 craft whiskeys and rule, like a reveal. So that'll be fun. We might also, depending on how much time we have left at the end of the evening, blend some with those. The other night, I had some time on my hands and a little bit of time. So I went live for like 30 minutes and did some blending after I finished recording the Elijah Craig B521 video. I didn't even develop a thumbnail for that. I was like, you know what? I'm just going live right now. We're going to blend some whiskey. And it was kind of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Tonight I have a bit more of a set agenda. But if we have time, we'll see what we can come up with these whiskeys. What I'm sipping right now is Elijah Craig. It's, which one did I pull? I think I just did the standard Elijah Craig small batch. William, also being the generous swell dude that he is, sent me a barrel pick from wherever he's at. Georgia? Is it Georgia? Mableton Bottle Shop is really nice. Really, really nice. So I'm not using that as my palate adjuster because it's so dang good. Like, I'm not in a rush to drink all of it. But I don't mind starting with some standard Elijah Craig before we bop. Yeah, bottle pop. Bop is short for bottle pop now. Before we bottle pop the Elijah Craig 18. Before we get there, now that I've shared what I'm drinking, we'll talk about what I bought this week in just a moment. S21 299F says 18 year what? What do you got? Elsa, hey Drew, on pain meds. Oh, that's not great. I'm sorry about that. But mentally drinking Woodford Double Oak, my new fave. A mental drink. That doesn't sound as good as a normal drink, but I'm here for it. It might be better than no drink, depending on the day. William, yeah, Georgia, 15 miles west of Atlanta. Awesome. Yeah, that was a killer pick, dude. Really enjoyed that. Really, really rich for the 94 proof, for sure. Some of those standard 94 proof Elijah Craig picks, they're sleepers. They don't tend to fly off the shelf, but a lot of them are really, really good. I think Heaven Hill rolls out some nice barrels for that picking program. Now that they're allowing barrel proof Elijah Craig picks, like, I just can't wait to taste some of those, because I'm sure we're going to encounter some extraordinary single barrels of whiskey at cask strength through that program. None so far in Wisconsin. Standard Elijah Craig, though, always does it for me. What bottles did you guys pick up this week? At my local joint, where I'm friends with the owners, where I spend a lot of money, they get a lot of Michter's allocation. Pretty much nothing else. It's pretty rare that they get highly allocated bottles from other brands. They did get a Discovery Batch 4 earlier in the year, but they get Michter's 10 and even Michter's they had one toasted rye, which I didn't get last year. I ended up getting that from the distillery. Michter's barrel strength rye. So pretty much every year I get a couple of the allocated Michter's products from these guys. I got another Michter's 10 bourbon this week because, the intelligentsia of bourbon geeks tend to not that more into the Michter's 10 rye. I really like, so I've got the open Michter's 10 bourbon. Now I have a backup. I really like that. I drank it twice this week and I'm like, man, this is just really, really good stuff. So I'm kind of jacked to have a backup. I've enjoyed it when I've had it. Excuse me. I had Sloppy Joe tonight. It's kind of fighting back. It's revenge of the Sloppy Joe. There was one other thing. I already mentioned last week that I picked up Still Austin cask strength, but I haven't gotten that in yet. I think that's it. Yeah. I did have a really fun experience before we popped the Elijah Craig 18. Had a really fun experience at a bar yesterday. There's actually a brew pub very, very close to where I work, downtown Milwaukee, Explorium Brew Pub. And I went to meet an old friend there. We hadn't gotten together in quite some time, but he's a bourbon geek. And we went to this place and they've got a great bourbon selection, bourbon/American whiskey. I had no idea. I had no idea that they had such a quality array of goodies until we go in there, and they've got, they got Elmer, they've got Old Fitz. What was that? Maybe 14-year-old Fitz, Magnus Cigar Blend, Weller 12, Weller Full Proof, 1792 12, couple of the Michter's products, and then a lot of the other standard releases. Limousine 6-year rye, which not a lot of bars have. Just a really great selection. I was like, this is awesome. It's literally like a quarter mile from where I work. And I just thought it was, one of the branches of their brew pub brand, which they've got, I think, 3 around town. But, we're there and we're sipping whiskeys. And then the owner comes up and just starts talking to us. His name is Mike. I'm 90% sure it's Mike. I'm going to kick myself. I'm just going to make sure. Yep, Mike Doble. Great dude. So if you're ever in Milwaukee, you should go to Explorium Brew Pub downtown. just had a swell time chatting with him. Very generous guy. Gave me a little bit of Weller CYPB, Create Your Perfect Bourbon. That's just a super generous to give anything of that. Super generous. I'm gonna go back there and spend tons of money now because he was just a really generous guy. Let us try a couple other things. I had brought bottles of our picks for my friend, so we popped those and we're just sharing drinks across the bar. And I was thrilled at the nature of humanity. Oftentimes I get depressed at the nature of humanity, but yesterday was a cause for celebration. So, hot take on Weller CYPB, which people have crapped on. It seems, people are on or off pretty much every whiskey. I mean, I have gone through this craft whiskey tasting and I have given some honest takes. I try and just say, this is what I think of it. That said, we all have different palates. Please don't, when I crap on something, as I do sometimes, take it as gospel. It's not. Sometimes you find people whose palates you match pretty closely and you're like, yeah, based on their opinion, I think it's probably a fair bet to either buy or not buy, but it's totally subjective. So I was surprised at how rich the CYPB was at 95 proof, I think it is. I think it's an 8-ish year wheated whiskey at 95 proof, but really sweet, pure brown sugar with honeysuckle, kind of floral. And then there's some red fruit in there too. I'd have to go back and, taste it really officially. It was not an official tasting, but I was impressed. I enjoyed that. So am I going to go out and spend secondary money for a bottle of Weller CYPB? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think retail on it's technically in the $60 to $70 range. I would pay that though. I thought it was really nice. So I wouldn't pass on it if you have a chance to get it. Certainly under $100. The secondary value is $400 or $500. It's ridiculous. But it was a nice whiskey and I'm glad I got to try it for sure. All right. Hydrate per usual. You guys know I like to keep a massive vessel of water by me because it helps me sleep better, particularly on the nights where I'm like, hey, I'm going to drink all this whiskey, taste it. Water is important. Most of your body's water. So keep it well hydrated. Flush the bad stuff out. All right, let's hit the chat a little bit here before we pop that EC18. Lots of you guys just bantering away. I'm glad you're having a good time. Matt lives in PA, which is state-run liquor stores. That bites, but he was able to pick up 3 bottles of the Parker's Heritage for retail. Wow. That's amazing. Carlos got an FAE 01 Makers. That's wonderful. Really, really great whiskey. Kenny Killingsworth got the Sam Houston 15. You guys, you're having great weeks. Randy Wilds found an Eagle Rare 4 Roses single. Everyday whiskeys, can't go wrong. Both really, really good, and I'll drink either one any night. Scott Tyson got the Rebel Yell 10 and an Elijah Craig Toasted. Nice. I like both of those. Wendell picked up Knob 12, which is great, and Chattanooga Ryan Cask Strength. Yeah, some really, really great stuff here. You guys, you may have noticed we don't have TFL Dad, Tom Lynch in the chat. He is on vacation. He's, wrench extraordinaire. So I'll wrench-ish myself some if necessary. Hopefully it's not necessary, but he's on vacation in Hawaii like a boss. He messaged me and Brian. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to be at the video launches this week because I'm about to get on a plane and go to Hawaii. Like, wow, dude, that's pretty killer. That's awesome. I've never been there. I'm planning on taking the family to California this winter, get out of Wisconsin for a little bit. That'll be the closest I've ever been to Hawaii. Haven't even really spent any time in California outside of a quick business trip. Man, my cough is coming back. Maybe I just need to stop and breathe for a minute. Matt says he picked up Michter's Barrel Proof Rye, Russell's Reserve Single Barrel Store Pick, and Ardbeg Black Scotch. I did get a Russell's pick as well this week from Total Wine. Because if you guys saw my Instagram story that day, it was last Friday, I tried to run to Total Wine to get a 10 or 11 year OESV 4 Roses drop and missed it. And it was supposed to be limit 1. I think I already ranted and raved about this. Maybe my days are blending together. Anyway, I didn't get one, but then I got a Russell's pick and it was awesome. So I was happy. It's fine. Like, you're not going to win them all. Joseph says, not drinking tonight, but picked up 79 Macallan Grand Reserva that I'll be opening tomorrow for my birthday. Wow, man. What do you do for a living? That's insane. Those things are legendary. Congrats, dude. Happy birthday. Hopefully you'll be able to share that with some folks, but cheers to you, dude. That sounds so cool. Commenter says, Dad donated me the bottom of a bottle of Weller 12. Well, you've got a great dad. So cheers to him this Father's Day. Andrew Beck. Andrew, I'm glad you're in the chat, man, because I'm tasting your whiskeys tonight. Knob Creek 12 finally came back in the state. Got some of that. William got the Blue Run 14 year. E.H. Taylor Straight Rye and Red Spot. Well, you guys, I think we're keeping the distilleries in business just in our chat here. Old Forester Barrel Strength. E.H. Taylor Small Batch. Yeah. Great polls, y'all. Yeah, and I can't complain either with the Michter's 10, Russell's single barrel. That's more whiskey than I drank this week, so I am good to go. And now to open another bottle. You know, the deal. Here's what I'm running. I rearranged recently. Somebody commented on my video today, like, hey, you should give a tour of your bar. I gave a tour of my bar early on when I started the channel. And that was before, the channel was taking off. And so, my collection was about half then of what it is now. They asked for another tour, but I recently rearranged. So this is a tour preview. I moved everything that I'm wanting to open up. And I was like, you know what, if it's open or I want to open it, let's get it up there and it's free drinking. I'm not going to drink the Four Roses down like anything. I'm going to save it for when friends are around and my brother's in town and blah, 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 blah. But anything up here, I'm going to open or drink. And so there's just a few. Got Remus Batch 4 up there, 10-year MGP Rye from Redemption. Those aren't opened. Big Red 12, I got to open that. I got a couple craft whiskeys, the Smoke Wagon Small Batch, and then a Fiddler, which, William, I think you sent me the Fiddler too. Man, just deep pockets are very generous. Regardless of how big your pockets are, you're very generous, man. So here we go tonight. Is popping the Elijah Craig 18. Now, I'm nervous about this. Nervous a little bit. Because, right now it's worth something. And I've really enjoyed the Elijah Craig 18 tastes I've had. But this is my only full bottle. So I'm hoping that this is a good pick. Regardless, I think I'll enjoy it. So I don't think it's going to be bad, even though a lot of people will say, I don't like it. And we have a tendency, I think, dang it, sorry guys, this is difficult. I think on the YouTubes, the Whiskey Tube, we have a tendency to kind of blow things out of proportion because it's for entertainment's sake. So maybe you will say, I don't like it. And it's like, well, actually, we like it just fine. It's just not, our preference. And so we go a little harder than we should on a perfectly fine whiskey just for entertainment's sake. Is that bad? I don't know. I think being overly theatrical is probably a problem in our culture at large. We make things unnecessarily polar when the world in general isn't that way. There's just a lot of gray. So it's probably helpful to temper. Or if I find myself getting out of control, like spiraling, being hyperbolic. Actually, I'm just being hyperbolic for fun, and now I need to calm down. Andrew says his wife cried a little bit when he popped his George T. Stagg and William LaRue Weller this year. You just see the money leaving the wallet. But hey, you already spent the money. So you probably don't want to get in trouble trying to sell it on the black market. Let's read this. This is the tag before we do the pop. Truly a bourbon for the avid collector. You know what? Let's do some ASMR. Here we go. Truly a bourbon for the avid collector. Our 18-year-old Elijah Craig bourbon is bottled solely from the contents of one barrel, not the mingling of many. Only a handful of barrels of Kentucky bourbon have been allowed to age so long. Of these limited barrels, our master distillers hand select only those of the highest quality and bottle the contents as an individually numbered single barrel. In 1789, Reverend Elijah Craig, who is credited with being the father of bourbon, became the first to age his whiskey in charred oak barrels, so they say that's a rumor. Since then, Elijah Craig, 18-year-old single barrel, has garnered some of the industry's most prestigious accolades, including Whiskey of the Year and double gold in the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. That's misleading. They make it sound like Elijah Craig 18 has been around for a really long time. I mean, it's been around for like 30 years or something. Maybe not that long. It hasn't been long since the brand started. All right, here we go. Ready? Ooh, nice. That was kind of a high-pitched pop. A little poppy pop. But it was nice. The cork is in good shape, which I would expect. This isn't a super old release of Elijah Craig 18. I think it's 2019. June 2019. This is going to be fun. Cheers, y'all. All right. Get enough in there so we can do a proper tasty taste. The cork is dope. You know, it's got a metal inlay. Nice, like rosewood. I do prefer the old. I think this is the same bottle style they had, but I liked the old label that went like this. This imprint on this bottle feels weird given the bottle shape. It just looks a little odd. Looks like Jefferson's, which is not my favorite bottle. So they're much sexier looking bottles, I think, but the cork is really nice on this. All right. Nose this guy. Smells good. It smells like a rick house. It smells like the angels share. Smells like angels. There's nothing young about it. No raw nuts. A lot of sweetness and toasty oak. Little slices of heaven. I'm getting some fruit now. It's actually kind of bright. Like fresh apple cider. Yeah. Apple pie. Because we get some spices in there as well. Cinnamon and allspice. Yeah. Apple pie. If you're eating, so let's imagine this. I like to think about flavors as experiences. If you were eating a slice of spicy apple pie off of a barrel stave, that's what you have here on the nose. Peter says Elijah Craig 18 was $200 in state store, and I thought, hell no. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the secondary value. I think around here it's going between $200 and $220. That's in PA. Austin Feltz is going to sip the 18 along with me. Dude, belly up to the bar. Let's go. John White says Elijah Craig was also a cult leader. I haven't read specifically about him. Claims to be a reverend, but a lot of people do. Interesting conversation topic. Not that we're going to get into it here, but you guys know I like to talk about this stuff. What is a cult, and who gets to define what it is? Like, because the Catholic the Catholic Church might call the whole Protestant movement a cult, and vice versa. And then among Protestantism, a lot of denominations will call other denominations a cult. So certainly within my line of theological belief, there are things that I think move beyond denominational lines to cultish, heresy. But other denominations probably have their own line. So just super interesting topic of conversation. Who gets to decide what a cult is? That's not why we're here. Let's get back to this. It is not as... I was worried about this being crazy oaky. I think I have an eyelash in my eye. I was worried about this being crazy oaky. It's not on the nose. Really complex, so I'm jacked right now. I'm excited for it. One of the big criticisms of this whiskey is that it's only 45% alcohol, so only 90 proof. I was just singing the praises of the 94 proof standard small batch. The single barrels on that can be killer. So let's add, 8 years to that. Proof it a little bit lower, but it may be wonderful. This actually reminds me of Wild Turkey Decades. You want to do a side-by-side? Should we do a side-by-side? We'll do a side-by-side in a minute. I'm going to taste this. Then we're going to break out Wild Turkey Decades because we're talking about similar age and similar proof point. Decades is a little bit higher, but these would be interesting whiskeys to side-by-side. 2 different Kentucky distilleries. Drop in some old bourbon. I really like Decades though. And I could sit with this nose for a while. It's like it's evolving. 1 minute it's really bright and fruity. The next minute it's really deep and sweet. All right, water this up and then we're going to palate it. Vortex 1988 got Elijah Craig 18 at 140. Awesome, dude. That is MSRP. Good for you. Andrew Beck, I didn't like the one EC18 I had, so I've never bought it when I saw it. I also really didn't like the EC23. I've heard EC23 is really okay. I mean, it's hard at 20, it's hard at 18 years old, let alone 23, to pull off a great whiskey without it getting over oaked. Here's what we're gonna do tonight, squad. I'm gonna give away a 1 ounce sample of this Elijah Craig 18. Just because. What we're going to do is here's what we're going to do. In a few minutes, I am going to just tell you to type a number in. We're just going to go 1, 2, 3, and you guys can take turns entering these numbers in. Then I'm going to use a random number generator to pick a number. And if it lands on your number, you get the sample of Elijah Craig 18. We're not going to do super chat stuff with this because there's a problem with it. Other channels don't know this, which is okay. Hopefully it's all fine, but I'm really scared of it, is that if you charge money to enter a competition, it's illegal. Like that's illegal. You can't do that. There's a lot of legal gray areas in the whiskey tube community, but we're going to be careful. So yeah, that's it. So no judgment on anybody, but I'm not going to do the super chat in exchange for entering. We'll just do numbers, and I want to share the love tonight. And I've got a full bottle. So somebody's getting a sample of that scent. No guarantee it's going to go out quickly because I just got out the free shirts that I promised like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I got them out, but I got them out. Like they went out just later. And then Fred, I had his sample of the Old Scout 10-year single barrel for like 3 months, but I had a baby, but it got out anyway. So you will get it. I guarantee it. Unless it gets lost in the mail. Let's hit the palate on this. Great nose. It's delightful. I'm very happy with it. Very happy. Crazy rich, super caramely, like really dark. Like you're making a caramel sauce and you left it in that pan quite some time. It got plenty of caramelization, little carbonic interaction, a little creme brulee top on there. Lots of oak. 3 Toes of Fury, of course it is. Yeah, it is. I don't know. Like, granted, it's a single barrel. They're not all going to be equal. I was worried about this one, but I'm worried no longer. The viscosity is delightful. Again, reminiscent of something like Decades. This old whiskey at a lower proof, but big caramely sweetness. Like all spicy finish. A little less cinnamon, more allspice, a little harsher. Touch of black pepper, but it sits there forever. And when it's on your tongue, it's syrupy. Like honey, not mapley, honey. A121, Elijah Craig barrel proof that I tasted the other night. That was very mapley. We're not getting quite to maple. We got caramel, vanilla, and honey, which is, that's a lot of sweetness. I'm going to let it sit there for a little while because I'm not pulling as much fruit. maybe a tiny suggestion of that apple I was talking about earlier, but we're mainly in the well-developed sweetness range of flavors, and then a kick of spice on the back end, which I dig. I dig it a lot. I'm gonna pour I probably got enough to get us through decades. I mentioned before on decades, I popped this one on a live stream as well, which to me is one of the most fun ways to pop a bottle. Do it for posterity's sake. Where was I going? I mentioned that when I got this, I had passed on it so many times, and I'm so glad I finally was like, you know what? I should get one. Then I got another one. So thankfully, I've got one backup of this because I really, really like it. And my brother, who's a Wild Turkey fanboy, I mean, he gets 101. That's what he gets. He's one of those guys, super swell dude. He gets Wild Turkey 101. That's like it. Sometimes he'll get Eagle Rare if he can get it. And he hasn't had some of the finer Wild Turkey products. So I'm stoked to share this with him. I did give him a Wild Turkey 13 from one I had picked up in Guatemala back in the day. So he has had a few good tastes. I think he and I drank some Rare Breed together as well, a 2014 release of Rare Breed. That said, he hasn't had decades, so next time I see him. All right. I think the decades speaks to me more of like what Brian would call a dusty. And by dusty, there's this spicy rickhouse. Well, I mentioned I smelled rickhouse here, but it's coming through a little sharper. It's more like singed wood as opposed to toasty oak. There's like this slight difference. And this, I get more of that singed wood, like you're around a campfire burning old staves that once held bourbon. Very rich on this. Not as sweet on the nose here, but a little more full, a little less subtle. Yeah, Elijah Craig is a little more subtle. I actually like the nose on decades better doing this side by side. What is the proof point on here? Oh, so we got 52%. So this is, I just had forgotten how proof heavy this was. I thought it was lighter. It's not. It's 104 proof as opposed to 90 proof. That's a pretty big difference. And it kind of comes through in the nose. A little more rich on the Wild Turkey, more delicate on the Elijah Craig. But let's hit the palate on the Turk. Wow. Yeah. It's got a few more layers than the Elijah Craig. Viscous and buttery. Not quite as sweet, but more spicy. You get a little more influence from rye in there. So what does that translate through? Sometimes it's hard to pick out notes on the fly. The rice spice is interesting because it'll come through in these kind of this touch of herbaceous, like a little bit of parsley on the finish, but it can also deliver some fruity notes. Like grape is one that I tend to get out of a ride bourbon, particularly like grape soda. I can get like white grape, like actual, like real grapes from something like Buffalo Trace. But if it's going to like go a little bit farther into this like crazy sweet, like purple kind of flavor, like grape soda, it almost always shows up with rye. Like a lot of high rye MGP stuff tends to be really grape soda forward. Sometimes it gets into cough medicine. Don't like that as much. Like this artificial cherry. I like real cherry or maraschino cherry notes that I pick up out of some bourbons. But that cough syrup is rough. This one is a little grape soda forward. All right. It's almost not fair tasting the Elijah Craig next to that. It's so good. Come back to this. Definitely smells like Heaven Hill. Like Heaven Hill has a smell, particularly good Heaven Hill. Elijah Craig smells like really good Heaven Hill. Decades, you wouldn't necessarily know it was Wild Turkey when you first gave it a snort, but it's old, it's special. It's perfect dessert. Very, perfect dessert. Really inoffensive whiskey. Like a well-aged Blanton's. I mean, I'm not going to crap on Blanton's. I never have. Is it overhyped? Probably. That said, it's good. If it spent a little more time in a barrel, it'd be really good. This Elijah Craig is kind of like that. It's very honey forward, pretty chill, some good sweet oak, very viscous and syrupy, not crazy intense. So if I have friends who don't know bourbon that well, or they like some, like they're big fans of Buffalo Trace or, not bottom shelf, but Elijah Craig, Evan Williams. Like if I gave them this, it would blow their minds. They'd think it was the best thing ever. I think it's really, really good. I would like some more intensity out of it, but I wasn't expecting it. It's just not an intense product. That's not how it's marketed. But it would be a really, really swell bottle to show up to a party with and share with people who have never had a really high-end bourbon before, because I think they can appreciate it because it's not high proof. Like proof is not everything. There's a time and a place for a 90 proof bourbon, and I think Elijah Craig 18 nailed it. That said, I would love to taste a slightly older or a slightly higher proof Elijah Craig 18. That's a conversation for another time. I'm very happy with this. Worth it. I'm going to taste it next to this Elijah Craig small batch. Save this decades for a little bit later, and then we'll move on to our blind here in just a few. Oh, you know what? We got to do the giveaway first. So here's what we're going to do. I want you... Hey, Thomas, thanks for that super chat. I appreciate it. That is a great way you can support the channel if you want. No pressure. A couple ways you can support the channel. One is you can super chat on these live streams. Another one is you can support on Patreon. And we've had a good response from Patreon of those of you who support that way. So major thank you. This is a passion project that does allow us to do some cooler things. I've been able to upgrade my AV situation over the course of the last 4 months. It took me a little while with the audio, particularly on the published. Anyway, it's been tough because I'm not that technical. I've had to learn a lot about video and audio production. We're getting there. But anyway, if you do support the channel, very appreciated. You can do that through Patreon, patreon.com/entryproofpodcast, or you can do that by super chat, or you can send samples. I've been doing this craft whiskey tasting. These 7 are going to take me, I think, to 71 different craft whiskeys that I've had this year, and I'm trying to get to 100. And then after that, who knows? I want to pick another theme for next year because this has been so educational. Like my world has been opened up to what's happening across the nation from craft distilleries. And there are some who I think are just crushing, and I'm really going to keep a closer eye on. Max Ray says, haven't cracked it yet, but heard big things. Got a Stag Junior batch 15. Nice. And like 8 ounces of E.H. Taylor barrel proof. Those are awesome. Batch 15 is by far the best batch yet, says Nicholas Faulkner. Batch 12 also is very highly regarded. Batch 12 of Stag. I have not tasted them side by side. I have the 12 unopened. I have 14 open, and it's really phenomenal too. So I've not had 15, so I couldn't tell you. I have nothing to add to that conversation. I'm talking to tell you that I have nothing to talk about. Yeah, Max says, I've always heard batch 12 is the best because it's so close to GTS. It's whatever, Some will say batch 12, some will say batch 15. Again, I haven't had it, but it's kind of like that Elijah Craig batch B521. You're going to have some people who are just really off-put by it for, I think, a variety of reasons. And then you're going to have those of us who are like, this is really good. Like, what's the problem here? Vortex 1988. What's been my favorite so far? Well, I hesitate because I don't want to give away too much. Because there have been several that I really, really liked. I've got here, I'll tell you what's in my top so far. But when I get to 100, I'm going to do a video, one of my, 20 to 30 minute non-live streams, and I'll say, the top 5 craft whiskeys that I had so far, top 5 out of 100, and I'll name my favorite. I don't know what my favorite is so far. We have a Peerless rye pick, a 3-year rye pick from Peerless. Which 3 years? I'm like, come on, man! Like it needs more time in the barrel, right? But it was really good. That is empty. This is a Nulu single barrel pick. It's MGP. It's a 5-year MGP pick from Nulu. Straight bourbon. They're really good. Starlight single barrel bourbon pick. Our own Starlight rye pick, which, I mean, can I enter that in? Is that biased, y'all? Do you think I can enter in our double oak rye pick? But I think it's so good. It's really good. And of course, I'm going to taste them all side by side, but it might be a little biased to put my own pick in there. Fiddler, Georgia, Heartwood, store pick, Thornton package from ASW, which William sent me a bottle of. Thanks, William. You're a hero. He also sent me that sample. And then Middle West Spirits. This is from Tom Lynch, TFL Dad. This is a straight wheat whiskey, cast strength, which I don't know if this is the Michelob Reserve from them or not, but this is phenomenal. So all these 5, the Middle West, I have to go back and look. This is their own stuff. Middle West is their own stuff. ASW, there's something funky with ASW. I think this is sourced whiskey. Yes, it's finished and bottled. So it's a wheated whiskey that they source, and then they refinish it, and then they bottle it. So not their own distillate, I don't think, but it's good. It's so good. So at some point soon, I'll repop that, but I got some of it left here, and I'm really glad to have a bottle because it was delightful. Starlight, this is their own stuff. Nulu is sourced, and Peerless is their own stuff. So I'm really looking forward. I think I will probably do a tasting of these live. And then I'll do a video where I actually run through them kind of after that tasting. So you guys might get a little bit of double content that week. But, generally, I won't say generally I'm impressed. I've been impressed a decent amount of times by some of these craft whiskeys. Of course, New Riff I was already a big fan of. Some of the craft whiskeys I've not been impressed with. But that's the way it goes, right? I mean, there are big distilleries who release whiskeys that I'm not a big fan of, too. I think in general, almost everybody could stand to leave their product in the barrel a little bit longer, but that's also crazy expensive. And that's not a profile that's for everybody either, as we were talking about with the Elijah Craig 18. All right, Elijah Craig small batch. Same kind of basic profile, but much more rough around the edges. You get some hay and you get some raw nuts in the midst of what is otherwise brown sugar, a pretty decent amount of oak, and some roasted cashews. It's like the raw, there's some like rawness, roughness, the grassiness that is not terribly off-putting because generally it's a sweet, well-aged, really balanced bourbon. It is bourbon flavored bourbon. That's what Elijah Craig small batch is. It's just not that small of a batch. And now they got, 8 to 12-year-old product going in. So there's some barrels that are probably just a little light, a little peppery, a little grassy. Whereas 18 is, of course, much older, and it's a single barrel, so really highly curated. What you pick up out of a whiskey depends so much on what you taste it next to. So tasting the 18 after the standard small batch brings the 18 to life. Like it's a completely different comparison than tasting it right next to Wild Turkey Decades, which is similar age, but a blend and higher proof and a different distillery. This goes like, it's kind of light, maybe a little entry level compared to Decades, but compared to standard Elijah Craig, I'm like, yeah, that's about as good as it gets from Heaven Hill. So yeah, it just depends. There are times I'll go to a whiskey I know I love, and based on what I ate that evening, how it interacted with my palate, I'm just like, man, I'm not pulling the kind of goodness that I normally pull from this. That's a bummer. Then other times I have that whiskey and I'm like, that's what I remember. Give it to me. So just be careful. I kind of went off on that a little bit on my Elijah Craig video, in that I was like, just don't bash a whiskey right out of the bottle and then publish a review specifically dedicated to that product. It just seems like sketchy. You're just probably going to unnecessarily waylay something without doing due diligence. I spent a long time. I had a few pours out of that B521 before I gave it my go. And I dare say, I think Fred Minnick, who initially waylaid the B521, if he went back to it, I don't know that he would hate it as much. Maybe he would. Maybe I give him too much flack. I think we all do in general give Fred too much flack. I've heard he's a great dude. We talked about that with Ryan Cecil some last week. I'd really like to meet Fred because I've heard he's just so swell. One day. Peter says, is Dad's hat considered craft? I don't know. I don't know much about Dad's hat other than I know Fred Minnick liked them. So I don't know if they produce I think they produce their own. And if they do, then yeah, they're definitely craft. And craft is totally a relative term. There's actually a quantifiable definition for craft, but I'm really considering craft most of the small up and comers that aren't Barton, Heaven Hill, Beam, Four Roses, Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, MGP, Although I do consider some of the blending that people are doing with MGP as sort of a craft operation. So, Nicholas, you picked Fred, or you got Fred's Woodinville pick, and it's straight fire, like a good kind of straight fire, or straight fire like it's just hot as balls. Because normally, if I'm like, man, that's fire, it's pretty dank. That's super fire. That's a good thing. I assume you mean it as a good thing. Chris Brookard, relatively new to the channel. Good stuff, man. Hey, thanks for joining. The mission of the Drew P. Whiskey channel, the Entry Proof podcast, is to share stories and educate, really. There's some nonsense, obviously, that's like bourbon involved, but generally you just try and talk about the stuff because I think it's interesting enough on its own. Andrew Beck says he prefers the terms legacy and non-legacy distillers. Nice. Yeah, because it doesn't imply size so much as just length of time in the biz. Because Bardstown Bourbon Company is a huge operation, but I kind of consider them craft because they're so dang new and they're doing really innovative stuff. But they're definitely not craft from an output perspective, but they're definitely non-legacy. Andrew, I like that. Where did you hear that, man? Probably Fred, right? Three Toes of Fury says it's like the Fire Festival. Lol. Nice. Chris, pretty new to bourbon as well, so I've been checking out Whiskey Tube pretty heavily. Who else do you like? That's an interesting topic. Like, what other channels are you digging on? Three Toes of... Well, I got to get to this craft whiskey tasting, but I'll hit this question for the heck of it. Three Toes of Fury says, favorite top 2 or 3 findable bourbons right now? Four Roses single barrel. Russell's Reserve single barrel. Also Rare Breed and Russell's Reserve single barrel are both killer. Four Roses single barrel, killer. Pick another one because I'm basically counting Russell's Reserve and Rare Breed as the same. Pick one from a different distillery. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is findable. It's not everywhere, but if within a year, hopefully you'd be able to find it. It varies depending on state too in terms of distribution, but I definitely am an advocate for Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, a non-sponsored advocate. Let me be clear. Like Eagle Rare is not as findable anymore, but I love that one. Let me look at my shelf. Oh, Knob Creek single barrel. Yeah, if I'm going to pick a beam product, it's the Knob Creek 9-year 120. Store picks are better, though, if you can find them generally. Just that extra level of care that goes into selecting those. So, yeah, Knob Creek 120 single barrel. Four Roses 100 proof single barrel. Russell's Reserve 110 single barrel. Yeah, but the store picks of the Russells are non-chill filtered. It's pretty much straight from the barrel with a little water added. So big fan of these guys. And then Elijah Craig barrel proof. That would be my number one if you were to count that as available. Chris watching Fred. Fred's he's an educator. He's kind of a goofball. But I think he's a great resource. So definitely worth watching Fred. Bourbon Junkies, Shelf Turds. Those are if you they're fun channels. Put it that way. When are you dropping the coffee bomb on newcomers? Are those days gone? No, I still talk about coffee. I'm wearing a Stone Creek Coffee shirt, my dude. So yeah, if you like to support the channel in a roundabout way, I'm a part owner at Stone Creek Coffee based out of Milwaukee. So stonecreekcoffee.com is where you can pick up some really, really rad coffee. We source the vast majority of our coffee direct from origin. We're what's called a specialty coffee roaster. So if you want some banger coffee, I mean, I won't say a lot, but a decent amount of folks from Nation have tried Stone Creek. And if I ever steer you wrong, if you got a coffee from Stone Creek and you don't like it, I'll make it right. Reach out, let me know. We'll get you one you like, or I'll refund. No problem. Vortex 1988, 100% agree. Four Roses single barrel, Wild Turkey rare breed, Russell's Reserve single barrel, and ECBP are all fantastic. I'd add Jack Daniel's single barrel proof to that list too. Yeah, that's definitely for some people. That's not my favorite profile. I get too much banana. And I was talking to actually Mike and a friend of mine at the bar yesterday, Mike, who I mentioned earlier. That it's just that banana note's not doing it for me right now. I'm having a hard time with Old Forester and with Jack because of the banana note. Hopefully it's just a phase, but we'll see. I have not had the legendary Duke. Mojo 88 Basin Bourbon. Dude, that's such a killer comment. Ashton Kutcher of whiskey. Nice. I appreciate that. I don't know. Peter Mitchell, love watching Matt. Matt is so funny. Matt is authentically funny. So like some of the channels are banter heavy. And if you're into that, if that's your speed, more power to you. Matt his sense of humor resonates with my soul. Like I just look into his face and I feel warm. And then he speaks and I just laugh. I mean, I'm sitting there on my phone watching it by myself and laughing because I just think he's the funniest dude. And I think he's got a killer palate. So I'm a big fan of Matt. Yeah, he shows up in the chat sometimes, but don't tell him I said anything nice about him. All right. Kill this Elijah Craig 18. And then we're going into our whiskey tasting because I've been, I find it amazing when I get on with you all. You ask a lot of great questions, a lot of fun interaction. I find it pretty remarkable how much I can just keep talking. So we've been in this for 54 minutes already, and I still have to get through a blind tasting. So if you showed up for a blend session, sorry, that's probably not going to happen tonight. But at some point, I'm still going to do a live stream 100% dedicated to blending. Yummy. I'm curious to see how that evolves too, because I even mentioned it depends on the palate some days. I feel like my palate's pretty in tune. Commenter McComment face. Yes, Matt does not like Maker's Mark. You are correct. And in that regard, he's just wrong. He's quantifiably wrong. But whatever. Like taste is not quantifiable, but in this case, he's quantifiably wrong. 100%. Okay. Let's get some. Well, I'm going to reuse glasses. I don't like doing all these dishes. And my dishwasher doesn't always get the glasses clear. And it's a whole big thing. Dr. Muff says, you and ADHD are a great yin yang. Very funny, but in very different ways. I had so much fun when he was on the channel, and I can't wait to have him back, hopefully before too long. All right, let's start. So we got a 7 whiskey blind from Andrew Beck. You know what? Let's just do this. I'm going to dirty some glasses. It's going to pain me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Cord's going to get in the way. Jeepers. Let's... Yeet. Left to right. Gonna need more entry-proof glasses. All right, now that I'm going to focus on this, I'll probably see less in the chat. So if you guys want me to see something, make sure you well, actually, I'm looking only at my software. I'll try and look. Make sure you at me. If you really want me to see, though, do the super chat. That'll make sure it shows up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I still have something in my eye. My daughter, she's going to turn 4 in July, and she's having a thing. She's kind of, she's going through a phase, and I think part of it is we just had another baby, and so she's not the baby anymore. Bless her heart. But when she goes to bed, it seems like every night she gets an eyelash in her eye, and I'm wondering if she's like intentionally putting eyelashes in her eye at this point, just so she doesn't have to go to bed. But she doesn't let me get them out. That's a hard thing. Is like it's driving her crazy. She's screaming. She will not let me get the thing out. So parenting is tough, man. Because then you get frustrated, but your child's in pain. So it doesn't help to get frustrated. But you do. Yeah. It's hard to blame your parents. You look back and you're like, parents, why did you, do that or say that or let me do that or not let me do that? And it's like they're just trying their best in most cases. It's just hard parenting. Okay, we'll wait to sniff these until we get them poured out. Sometimes I like to sniff them out of the vial and just see like what kind of intensity. I do not need that much. Well, I might need that much. Does it hit me out of the vial with anything terribly pungent? But we're going to wait and just sip it out of the glass today. That one looked syrupy. 3 looks syrupy on the pour. 4. Any whiskey news y'all thought was interesting this week? It seems like there's something different every day. There's so many new folks doing cool stuff. Like there's another special release announced. So it's hard not to get envious. Like, and you see other creators doing cool stuff too. So it's like easy for me. And I got into this just to like have fun. But it's easy for me to be like, oh, I want to do that. Like, why can't I do that? What do I need to do that? And it's like, dude, just do your thing. Like, just have fun doing your thing. That's why you started this. But anything anybody saw was particularly interesting? I don't want to get dramatic. Like, yeah, anyway, we'll not go down that rabbit hole. All right. Start with number 1 here. Blind, whiskey blind from Andrew Beck, Craft Whiskeys. Carl says he's going to try and track down one of those Old Forester single barrel ryes. Yep. Brian Bikey at Abandoned Bourbon. He did a review of a barrel he got. You should go check out his channel at Abandoned Bourbon. Mojo says, how about Fred Minnick freaking out on distillers like that? No comment. I have a comment about everything. So Fred's an entertainer, but he really, really cares about small business, and distillers are generally not small businesses. So I understand. Like, if you're a distiller now, Whiskey Tube is kind of a thing. Like, there are folks, influencers, who have legitimate influence. I mean, many of you guys reached out to me and said, like, Drew, I started buying this stuff. Thanks for that. I'm like, great. That's awesome. So it's like, I'm selling whiskey. Didn't think that would happen, but it's happened. Yeah, so for distillers to prioritize that makes a lot of business sense. yes, sales have gone down pretty dramatically in bars for a year, but that's how whiskey got sold before. Those sales are going to come back. How much is it actually happening where bars can't get stuff because of, influencers and bottle groups? I don't know, but it's like none of us can get stuff like we used to. So it's just things change. It changes. That's part of life. And the bars are going to be fine. People are still going to go drink at bars. Things are going to bounce back. Things are bouncing back hard in hospitality. I work in the F&B, in food and beverage industry. Things are coming back pretty well. That said, will it be exactly the same? Time is going to tell on that. So, Fred is more connected with a lot of the bars around him. So I don't know. What did I think about it? I thought it was interesting, really interesting. And would be great to have Fred on and talk about it. But I have no judgment, really. I've just thoughts. Yeah. Okay. I'll let you guys keep talking. Now I'm going for this. 1, lemongrass. Sweet lemon, lemongrass, sweet lemon, very light on the nose, not packing a lot of deep caramelized sugars or oak, herbaceous, but not terribly grainy. I think it could be a rye, or it could be a bourbon that surprises me because that happens sometimes. But the light, citrus heavy, herbaceous. I'm thinking rye on the nose. Okay, get some aspirin on the finish. Big lemon up front. Still think it might be a rye, but it also just might be a high rye bourbon. Packing a decent amount of heat, maybe from youth. It's not old. But it's still not super grainy. I don't get swimming pool. I don't get Band-Aid. I don't get unbaked sourdough. Some of those youthful notes that I tend to pull out of a very crafty craft whiskey. Now I'm getting a little more sweetness, some simple syrup. It's kind of like lemon water with simple syrup. That is also pretty alcoholic. Not bad. One's not bad. I'm okay on one. It's not amazing. It's got a really long finish on it, though. That's pretty nice. Brian said, sorry, but did you say what all whiskeys you're tasting blind? No. I don't know what they are. They're blind. They're craft whiskeys from my boy, Andrew Beck. So Andrew's in the chat. He's got the what's that guy's name? The guy from Star Wars. What does he say? I'm just blanking right now. I've seen that movie so many times, but he's got a very famous. He's not the Stay on Target guy. Anyway, Chubbs, was that his name? He had a funny name. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, that's the image. Andrew, why don't you comment something so we can see your guy and you remember what his name was? And he's, oh yeah, just go up a little bit. Andrew commented at 9:01. That guy's such a legend. Porkins, yeah, Porkins. such a great name. I love it. All right. Number 2. Much more rich, almost wheated, in that we're big on the brown sugar. Much more oak, but still kind of a young alcohol punch. The alcohol punch is probably above its weight, but it's got a lot of wood influence and plenty of brown sugar sweetness. I knew it had something like Chubbs or Porkin, like it had some connotation to the dude's girth, which it like was the ironic thing, which is this is what it is. I just love that guy. He's like a total hero. Like so many times, and pretty much the rest of Star Wars, like the rest of the heroes are very undiverse until you get into the new videos. Like And then this happens in most movies. Like, everybody's crazy jacked. Like, there's not real people who are. And unfortunately, Porkins died. Like, that kind of sucks. Like, that dude would have been an amazing main character. But there's not a lot of, like, regular people who end up as heroes in these action movies. Like, they're all jacked or young or thin or hot or whatever. It's like, just give us a dude. Give us a Porkins. We need a Porkins hero, man. I would watch that movie. Long live Porkins. Well, I wish he would have lived to Porkins, y'all. Getting that heat. That heat's coming through now. Whoa. Pretty hot. Really sweet. Pretty sure this is weeded. This could be Wilderness Trail weeded. I don't know. If it's in there, Wilderness Trail for the win. I don't know if it's Wilderness Trail. But my guess on this one is Young Rye. My guess on this one is 4-year weeded something. At cask strength. 118 proof. Not as high proof, but not low proof. 100 proof on this one. All right. Training for the world's top whiskey taster competition. Coming for Matt Porter here. Number 3. This is the one I said that poured syrupy. Not as intriguing on the nose as number 2. Dangerously close to that sourdough note on the nose. But it's not giving me much. It was grainy, toasted grains. Not much in the way of oak or fruit. Toasted grains. That's about it. More toasted grains. Probably a rye bourbon. But it tastes like it got the oak jacked up a little bit. Like it almost artificially oaky. Maybe a double barrel product. I didn't get as much on the nose. Just the toasted grains. But on the palate, it feels like it has a natural level of oak. Given the nose and given its age. Because I get a lot of that graininess that I pick up in young whiskey. This is also lower proof. You guys are going to have to hang out for the big reveal. I'm curious now. Andrew, you know what? For the sake of keeping people, I don't want to lose everybody. I'm going to try and just look at the first 3 here without looking. Be careful. Well, that's 4. Dang it. I already saw what 4 was. Okay. I suck at this. I don't actually suck. I saw what number 2 is. Number 1 is J. Henry & Sons Bellefontaine Bourbon, finished in cognac, 5-year-old bourbon, 52.93% alcohol by volume. I said 100 proof. We're at 105. Not bad. 60% corn, 14% wheat, 14% rye, 12% malted barley. So J. Henry is down the road from me by 3 hours. In Wisconsin, I am very surprised at the profile on this because it's so light and lemony. Not at all what I expected from them. I've had other products of theirs, not this one, that taste more aged. The cognac's hard to pick up too. We're going to chat with Joe. Actually, next week, Joe Henry's coming on this show, the Thursday night live stream, and we're going to chat about their products. So I might go try and find a bottle of this or a sample locally and see if there's a difference batch to batch, because I am surprised at how light that is. Not bad, as I mentioned. I said, not bad, but light. Very lemony. Number 2. Did I say we did, people? Did I? I did. I said we did. Dry Fly Straight Wheat Whiskey, Total Wine & More single barrel, 5 years, 66.37 alcohol by volume. So that's 122.74. I said 118. I mean, it was pretty good. Pretty good. It's nice. Does not suck. Does not suck. I'd take that over the J. Henry so far. Number 3. At least you got them in groups of 3 on these pages, Andrew. Thanks, man. Number 3, Spirits of Take my time to enunciate. Spirits of French Lick, Matty Gladden, Seal Box single barrel, non-age stated, 51.9% alcohol by volume. I thought it was lower proof than that. 55% corn, 35% rye, 10% victory malt. I did say rye bourbon, so at least we had that. Is it a bourbon, though, technically? Andrew, you got all this great information. Thanks, man. This is wonderful. I think it's a bourbon. So I've heard great things about Spirits of French Lick. I don't love this one. We lower the proof to 105 and fill strictly 53-gallon barrels with a medium plus toasted head and a number 2 char body. Number 2 char gives us toasted coconut and hazelnut alongside the slightly less stable entry proof of 105. The barrels are then matured in our dunnage adjacent to the distillery. The dunnage is a large barn with ventilation on all sides. Okay. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's not floating my boat. I do want to try more from Spirits of French Lick because I think this one is just pretty grainy, which is surprising. Oh, non-age stated. Well, barrel time. It's an important ingredient. Let's move on. Number 4. My nose is starting to congest a little bit. Ooh. Oh, there is big. I talked about grape soda earlier. We're in a grape soda party right now, and I like it. I like it a lot. This is sweet and fruity, not terribly oaky, not grainy, but I'm going to guess it's finished because that grape is so pronounced. Really delightful nose on number 4. It's 100% finished. What finish is it? I want to say it's almost a wine. Could be rum. Jeepers. There's so many weird flavors here. The grape soda comes through, but then the finish is okay. It's like Bazooka bubblegum. So I got a package of Bazooka bubblegum when I was a kid. And it was probably not safe to eat, you know. It was an old package of Bazooka baseball cards that were probably 10 years old. And we opened them up and there's bubblegum inside. So naturally, you got to put that stuff in your mouth. It wasn't great. It was very old and crispy. But still tasted like bubblegum, but funky, weird bubblegum. So grape, funky, weird bubblegum in number 4. Just such a heavy grape soda note. I'm going to say cognac on this too. I'm going to say really interesting cognac. And the cognac is playing first fiddle on this guy. Not bad. Interesting. Kind of weird. I don't love it. I don't hate it either. It's really interesting. We'll come back to 4 after I get through 6. Five. Andrew, come on, man. If they get that off the still, whatever the heck that was, I mean, somebody's doing some interesting stuff with distillation or with whatever wood they're aging in or with whatever grains they're using. 5 is light again. We're back in the light, pretty mellow bourbon department. It's hard coming off that grape bomb. There's a nostalgic flavor in here too that I can't place yet. 5 I thought was bourbon on the nose, very spicy, plenty of mint, a lot of mint, sweet spearmint with red fruits. Palate's nice on 5. Nose was not promising. 5 is very promising. Palate wise, nose not promising, palate promising on 5. Yeah. So I'm going to go pomegranate, sweet spearmint, some lime zest, kind of a fruity Christmas party. If it's a bourbon, it's a crazy high rye bourbon. I'm leaning into rye. Gotta hit this one more time. Now I feel pressure. Andrew giving me some flack for apparently not doing good on 4. Still pretty young. Get some medicinal tongue sensations. Not grainy though, which part I think a little bit rye because that. Excuse me. It's a lot of slurping. Cause some air to build up in the stomach. Bourbon when it's very young tends to be very grainy and bready. Rye when it's young just as punchy, which makes rye tend to be better when it's younger, and that's why a lot of folks will release a 2 and 3 year rye and it doesn't suck. 5 is nice. I would go to this sometimes because I like that punchy, minty, but it had some fruit, and so 5 is, I like it. I like 5. 6. Mojo and Peter want Russell's 13. Yes, me too. That's top of my list this year. I've been so into Wild Turkey recently, and that Russell's 13 year. Brian Bikey's got like 5 of them. I don't know how the dude does it. We should all just like storm his house. He might be watching right now, but we should storm his house and steal his Russells. All right, I'm doing better again. That's what I like to hear. That's what I'm here for. 6. Okay, all kinds of interesting things on the nose. Smoke. Rubber. Brown sugar, though. We're highs and lows. Like, what a bizarre. Yeah, the rubber is unmistakable. Here's what's helpful, though. We're not in car exhaust and we're not in Band-Aid. We're in fresh tennis balls. Not a bad smell. I mean, not something you really want to put in your body, but not a bad smell. But then we get some sweetness, too. It's like somebody filled the tennis ball jar with brown sugar and alcohol. Not super punchy, alcohol-wise, so not like hot on the nose here. Hard to get past that rubber. Big tennis ball. Let's hit the palate. We do have big smoke. We have a suggestion of peat. Calling this one to have some peat influence. Reminds me of Scotch. If it is peated, which I think it is, the seaweed, it's got to be the best peated American whiskey that I've had, because it's very sweet. It's balanced. The peat makes sense now. Going back to the rubber, the tennis ball, the phenols, phenol tends to give off that kind of stuff. So if you're into Scotch, it makes total sense. If you're expecting to sniff a bourbon or a rye and then you get phenol, you're like, what is going on? This is not going to be a win. But on the palate, it's 100% peated, or I'm an idiot. Which, I mean, let's be fair, I might be an idiot. But it's got good sweetness and oak. I think this is a peated bourbon, and it's really good. It's really interesting. A good example of one I did not like was Tire Fire, which may have been a peated rye from ASW. Did not like that at all. I'm not really into peated scotches that much either, but I can periodically appreciate them. And 6 tastes like a peated bourbon. That's pretty dang good. Never thought I would say that. So drink curious, y'all. It's peated bourbon, isn't it, Andrew? Let's have it. I'll do 7 and then we'll reveal, but am I close? We'll see. All right. I got to palate cleanse after that, though. I'm going to go back to 2 to palate cleanse because peat is hard to come back from. Still like 2 a lot. Maybe the chat just died. Maybe Andrew had to leave. Close, but not quite exact. That means it is a peated rye, but it's a pretty mellow rye if it is a rye. Or it's a peated scotch. I don't know. All right. We'll come back to it. We'll get the reveal. It'll be fun. Thanks, dude. This is a great blind. Really, really appreciate it. 7 is fish food. Fish food on the nose. Fish food grain. Grain. It's maybe my least favorite nose so far. Wigmaster drinking a Remus cask strength pick. Def weird. Dude, I've got one that I love. So those, I've only had one and I got 2 bottles of it because it was phenomenal. 6-year cask strength MGP. So be curious to hear what you think is weird about yours, though. I mean, they're single barrels, so one can just go awry. Yeah, the fish food is really it's hard to, yeah. I am not excited about 7 on the nose. Grainy and fish food. There's some salinity, like saltiness. There's some sweetness. It's not wretched. But the pet food, like you walk into a pet food store and that smell hits you. You guys know what I'm talking about. That is what I'm getting out of 7. Okay. Coming back. A lot of really nice sweetness, though. We got red wine and maple syrup, and fish food. What a bizarre dram. So not gut-wrenching. It's really not. The fish food aromatics is weird, and I want to know what happened there. This may be finished. It may be kind of not great distillate finished, or it's distillate that's really close that has this weird fish food thing that they need to work through. I get kind of nutty. The retro is almonds. Like after you eat almonds, like raw almonds, you swallow, there's sort of this wafting almondy retro nasal capacity. 7, man, funky. All right, let's try and dial in. What the heck is this thing? Yeah, I gotta be honest, I have no idea. The sweetness is remarkable after the nose. The grainy, fish foody nose that then turns into red fruit and maple and dry almonds. Very dry finish. But honestly, I can't pick up a particular spirit that I think this was aged in, unless it was aged in maple syrup. Like, unless there was some kind of flavoring, something happening. We'll just find out. All right, 4. Dude, I don't even remember what 4 was. What did I say about 4? I don't want to go back and taste it all again. It's not great. Dang it. Well, we'll just read them. You guys were watching. You know what's up. Can't figure it out. 4 was the funky grape one. Right, grape soda. Yeah. It's weirder coming off of 7. Finger Lakes Distilling. So now I've had plenty of Finger Lakes. No, I haven't. I've had 1. But Finger Lakes is what goes into the Pursuit series stuff, which I really liked tasting that with Ryan. We got a Brian on the show. We had another Brian. We have a Ryan. We have a Blake. It's like, calm down, people. All right. 4 is Finger Lakes Distilling, seal box, single barrel, 7 years old, 48.3% alcohol by volume, 70% corn, wheat, and malted barley. Right. This is the one I messed up because I was like, it's got to be finished. It's not finished. Corn, wheat, and malted barley, and is pure grape soda with some funky McFunkerton. 4 is one of the most unique straight whiskeys I've ever had. Is that good? Well, it ain't bad. Yeah, Andrew, thanks. Yeah, grape soda. Appreciate it. Thought it was finished. It is really, really interesting. Like, if you want to try something that's just like, whoa, I've never had that, and it's not awful, 4 is up your alley. I'm super intrigued. Like, I'm going to save the rest of the sample, and I'm going to come back to it because it's so interesting. Coming to it after a certain whiskey makes it taste really dry, but also I've had 9 whiskeys tonight. So, all right, 5. What did I say 5 was? Andrew, give me a hint. What did I say 5 was? I just got sidetracked by the peated one. And then the fish food. It completely derailed my memory. My chat's a little delayed too. Sorry, guys. I'm really letting you down. Did I say it was good? You said right. Okay, cool. Well, I nailed it. Woodinville Cask Strength Rye, 59.91% alcohol by volume. Flagship 5-year straight rye whiskey, straight from the barrel, undiluted and unfiltered. Did I like it? I really I cannot remember. I couldn't remember 4. Now I remember 4, but I don't remember 5 after 6 and 7. I was so sidetracked, so derailed. I just swallowed that wrong. Guys, it's hard to perform. It's hard to go live. Taste whiskey like this. It is a little grainy. The rye is nice. Give me a hint, man. What did I say before? Well, I don't want to contradict myself, but here we go. Okay. Yeah, I mentioned light. It's fine. Not bad. I'll go back through them all in a minute, Steve. Taste them all. Final thoughts. Woodinville Cask Strength Rye number 5, not bad. Number 6. This is the one I thought this bro is a peated bourbon. That's what I thought. I got tennis ball and brown sugar and smoke, and I get all that now. 6 is Woodinville Triple Barrel Blended Whiskey. I'm close. You're right. I was close. It's a bourbon mash bill, 72% corn, 22% rye, 6% malted barley. Bourbon mash bill, distilled higher than 160 proof, which is high. Aged shortly in new oak. So plenty of age, new oak influence, before being transferred to used oak for Lord knows how long. Then, here's where it comes in, people. Finished in an Islay Scotch barrel, which is peated. Since LVMH owns Woodinville and Ardbeg, which Ardbeg is super peated, boom, you can probably guess which Islay barrel they used. I mean, I'm not saying I know my stuff. I mean, I can't remember what 4 and 5 were, but I knew there was some peat involved there. Yeah, so the peated American whiskeys I've had, I've not liked. 6 is really interesting. The nose was a curveball, but if I'm going, okay, there's some Scotch influence here, it's not that bad. I just look for that funky, smoky, phenolic. And then the palate tastes like camping, man. Like, it is big, rich, sweet, oaky, and then you get that phenolic, peaty finish. I didn't look at this, guys. All right, number 7. Not surprising. Now, I mentioned the grain, the fish food. The grain is now makes total sense because it's a single malt, which tends to be very grain heavy, but it's Westland American single malt, hand-filled cask, 57% alcohol by volume. We're talking about 6 years old. It's a Washington company, Westland, Washington State. Cask types: first fill, former Westland, first fill, former bourbon, which first fill is misleading. So first fill cask in Scotch terms is not the actual first fill. It's a secondary fill. It's the first fill of a used cask. Like, wait a minute. You said it was first fill. No, it's the first fill the second time. It's like, no, come on, guys. That's not a thing, but that's how they call it. Ex-bourbon, French oak, ex-Syrah finish. So a lot of interesting finishing going on here. Malt finish, bourbon finish, Syrah finish. Yeast strain Belgian, Saison. I don't know beer. I can't say that. I'm sorry. Does that make me less of a man? Only if your measurement of manhood is something really weird that has to do with beer yeast. Fermentation time, 144 hours. Andrew, thank you for all this information on these whiskeys. That's super helpful when doing a blind, is to know what the heck are we talking about here. So if you guys ever want to send a blind and send this much information, we're talking pages. Helpful, really, really helpful. Necessary, not 100%. I'll take the whiskey anyway, but helpful. Okay. So one quick scan back through. Sorry. If you missed any of these whiskeys in the review, we have 7 from Andrew Beck. Okay, here we go. First one I mentioned was lemony and light. I thought it might have been a rye because it's pretty lemony and so light. But I didn't get a lot of grain. It's not. It's J. Henry & Sons, Bellefontaine, bourbon finished in cognac, 5 years old, cask strength. I kind of got that one wrong. Number 2, I was dead on. I thought it was a wheated bourbon. It's not. It's a wheat whiskey. Really sweet. And packs a decent amount of oak. It says normally this is a 3-year 90 proof release, but this particular barrel from Dry Fly, it's a total wine pick, is 5 years old and 66.37% alcohol by volume, and it's quite good. Next up, Spirits of French Lick Matty Gladden single barrel bourbon from Sealbox. I got more grain on this one. I wasn't vibing super hard. Hard to remember it all, squad. Anyway, that's what 3 was. That was forgettable to me, but I want to try more Spirits of French Lick because I've heard good things, just didn't love 3. But I love Seal Box. I love Blake. He's a great guy. 4 was the Grape Soda Festival. Probably the weirdest straight bourbon I've ever had. That wasn't disgusting. Finger Lakes Distilling, Mackenzie Seal Box single barrel pick, 7 years old, just under 50 proof. Still weird. It takes me back to a vacation I took with my family to Colorado, west of Colorado Springs. Forget the name of that little resort. But there was some smell in the place that we stayed. And I don't know why it takes me back there. I don't know if it's that great. Maybe I drank a lot of grape soda on that trip. To chase that. So super interesting. Would I reach for this regularly? I don't think so. But man, one of the things I love about these tastings is I get to try some weird stuff. Stuff that I would not have tasted otherwise. And I love the educational experience. So 5. Rye. Smelled rye-ish. Light. Oh, I think I mentioned mint and berries. I think I said I like 5, mint and berries. That's coming back to me. It was just deep back there. I like 5. Simple, but good. Punchy. 59.91% alcohol by volume. Woodinville cast strength rye, 5 years. 6 was the peated-ish, the Islay finished whiskey from Woodinville. Really interesting. I like it. I like it in its weirdness. I would actually get a bottle of this just to share with people because it's so interesting. Andrew, can you get one? DM me, man. I would like to get a bottle of this if I could. 7 is the Westland American single malt hand fill cask. I'm not big on that one. All right. Woo! That was fun. That was a great blind. So, Andrew, again, thank you. Neat Nation is in your debt for supplying us with this entertainment. And that takes us to 71 craft whiskeys. And that doesn't count all the craft whiskeys I tried when we did the Starlight picks. It doesn't count some of the ones that I own, which is fine. I may throw some of the ones I own into the final, like, top 10 or whatever show I do. Like the Limousine 6-year rye. If you live in Wisconsin and you don't own this and you like a Christmassy rye, you need to go buy this. It's still on shelves. I'm probably going to buy it back up. Worth buying. Cat's Eye Polish rye aged in port wine. Very good. Probably put that one in there. And then New Riff. I always love New Riff. I haven't had a killer New Riff single barrel yet this year. But if I have one before the end of the year, that'll probably make its way into the top 10. All right. Anything else we should talk about? No? Okay. Well, that's fine. I get it. Packed up and, call it an early night. I've got an early golf round on Saturday morning. 5:52 tee time. Sunrise is early in Wisconsin this time of year. I'm looking forward to it. My swings felt good. I played a par 69 last Saturday, and I shot 81. If I would have parred I doubled the last hole. If I would have parred the last hole, I would have shot 79. It was by far the best round I've ever played. But I feel good right now. Been working on a lot of stuff. And, commenter, dude, yes, thank you. Gosh. Okay, those of you who have stood the test of the stream, you deserve this. Now we're going to give away 2 samples of the Elijah Craig 18. I just started to devolve into golf. I apologize. Here's what I want you to do. How do we do this well? Because I want you to just all right, starting now, I'm going to comment. So just wait. All right. Now, each of you comment, say whatever you want, do whatever you want in the comment, and then I'm going to choose the number comment after mine, I'm going to use a random number generator in Google. You can just Google random number generator. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the third number that comes up, and we're going to, that looked bad. You can't do 3 correctly anymore because sometimes it means something bad. I mean, 3 or whatever the right way to do 3 is. Gosh. The third number that comes up, the third number, I'm going to use that to pick winner number 1. And then the fourth number, there's no bad way to do 4. The fourth number that comes up, I'm going to give number 3 and number 4 the samples. So just start commenting. A lot of people are doing that. Well, Peter is doing that so far. Just comment anything and you will be entered to win. We'll do the random number generator. Then I'll pick the winners. You guys can DM me on Instagram that you won. And then I'll send you an Elijah Craig 18 sample. You're welcome. Love you, boo. Nice. Lots of comments coming in. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Catch any of the U.S. Open today? Yes, of course I did. Obviously, I worked at home so I could watch part of the U.S. Open. I watched the featured pairing or featured group of Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, and Brooks Koepka. I mean, Brooks Koepka is kind of a tool bag, but he's also kind of awesome. So I like to watch Brooks. I think he's just kind of a remarkable human being. Not somebody I would aspire to be, but interesting. Very interesting. And I enjoyed that. And I look forward to watching a lot of the U.S. Open this weekend. Father's Day. Father's Day, Sunday, is my son's 6th birthday, my firstborn, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool to have Father's Day come on his birthday, for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to give it just another minute here. So if you want to enter to win the Elijah Craig 18, just comment anything in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to come back around to this decades after all these other whiskeys that I've had. After my palate's been utterly ruined. Still good. Still good. All right, here we go. Time's up, y'all. You had your shot to try and win an EC18. This is going to take a minute because I'm going to have to find my comment and then count back the comments after that. All right, here we go. There's mine. Random number generator. Gosh, I even have to count the amount of comments that came after. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, JCB he's working it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 20 of you, I think, and then it got out of hand. So minimum number 1, maximum number 20. Here we go. So generate number 1, generate number 2, generate number 3 is 13, and then generate number 4 is 11. So 11 and 13 after my comment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Exton Gliz, which you must be new. I don't know your URL. So good for you, man. You got a Elijah Craig 18 sample coming your way, but you need to DM me on Instagram. So go to Instagram, follow @DrewPWhiskey. Number 13 is OH, who commented. I'm almost going to keep this from you just because of your comment, but it's also pretty funny. She, don't know this person, commented 69. Pretty funny. I mean, you're probably the kind of person who writes on bathroom stalls. Don't blame you. It gets boring in there, especially if you have IBS. That said, congrats. You won Elijah Craig 18 sample. That's just got me. At this point in the night, that got me. But DM me on Instagram, @DrewPWhiskey. Thank you for entering, squad. Those of you who tune into the channel on the regular, you guys rock. I appreciate you. It was a lot of fun tonight. Andrew, again, thank you for the awesome sample set. enjoyed it for sure. I still taste peat in my mouth. When you have a peated whiskey, you should end the night on that because you really can't go back from it. It just sits there for a while. Not a bad thing, but a thing for sure. All right, squad. Hope you have a good rest of your night. A lot of fun. We'll catch you with a new video on Monday. If you didn't catch today's bonus drop about Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, check it out. It's on the channel. Monday, I have no idea what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll figure it out. And then next Thursday, we got Joe Henry from J. Henry Bourbon from Wisconsin on the live stream, and it's going to be dank. We'll see you then. Stay healthy, stay safe, and remember to keep it neat.